Hello everyone, this is Tarun, and today we are going to talk about automation testing in general in this podcast. And we have a very special guest with us who is having almost 20 years of experience in this field of automation testing. So yeah, Vimal, over to you. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hey, thank you, Tarun. Thank you, Jatin. Glad to be here. And so myself, Vimal, and I'm having close to 20 years of experience, industry experience. Experience spanned across development, project management, consulting, mostly automation test consultancy. And currently, I'm doing a global lead consultant from Americas region and servicing a client for test consultant test management. In short, I'm a huge fan of automation, and that's what has taken me so far.
Yeah, great.
Good to hear that, Vimal. Good to hear that. So my first question to you is, since you have so much years of experience in automation testing, so why should people choose automation testing?
Okay, so when you ask, it's a why automation. The question is why automation. So the objective of any software that falls under is under two categories. One is you want to deliver your product faster to market, right? So how can you deliver the product in shortest window of time? And second thing everybody thinks is like, okay, my product is going faster, I have to go faster. Secondly, how do I avoid some cost? How can I save a lot of cost? How can I execute this project in an optimized cost and effort, right? For achieving this, you need some smarter way. And when you think of smarter way, it's not only about testing automation, right? It's about when you write a code for the product, when you test, when you deploy. Because when writing a code, you'll be using already available automated frameworks. And while doing testing, you'll be using automated frameworks, tools, whatnot. And and while deployment, you need a way to deploy your code in an automated way. So in every phase of the software cycle, the automation prevails, right? In one or other form. So it's not only a testing team. So I feel the automation is a game changer once it started up.
Yeah. Thanks for the answer. Now, women as you mentioned, like automation testing is required. So does that mean we should automate everything in testing domain, like whatever type of scenario? Is it like that?
Not really. So today, if you see, when I talk very more relevant, I think most of the project which has been starting is in agile. So everybody have gone through waterfall, traditional models, and just everybody's talking about agile and different forms of agile, right? And agile, it's like you have sprints, which is like 2 week sprints or 3 week sprints as per the plan, as per the agile which has been planned for that particular project or for the particular company. So the stories it deliver may be 100% automatable, right? Maybe because you might be so when you see all the stories, you see why not? I can automate everything. But you should also see from an angle of short and long-term analysis before starting automation to answer what to automate. Because you should have a complete idea of the end product that should be going to be delivered in a system integration validation, right? So when you go for a system integration validation, you should have a end-to-end vision of what the product is. Every in-sprint story should be analyzed in that mindset. All right. Secondly, once you know the end-to-end product, now, secondly, you need to know whether these cases which you are thinking, the end-to-end scenarios which you are producing from this, uh, going to be utilized regressively. Will this be used in more iterations? And start having a ballpark return of investment calculations. Like, how do you want to, what is my current implementation will look like? And what at end of the sprint, after having all those end-to-end regressions things, like how much time I will use it, and calculate it against the manual effort which is going to come. And if you see there is a significant return of investment which is coming from then go ahead and plan for the automation.
That's a very nice answer, Vimal. So my next question to you is, which scenarios we should first automate? I mean, how we should choose the scenarios which we should automate first? How we should prioritize basically?
Okay, so it's again going to the answer which I gave you the first. It's the long-term goal which you see, right? Once you do a long-term product, end-to-end product, write down the end-to-end scenarios which is going to be used from the product when it starts from the sprint 0 till the sprint X number of sprints where it's going to end, right? And for example, taking a very least example of a retail stores which are going to start. Okay, I'll take a web example. So you have a web example, and the sprints are going to start from one page till the checkout of your product, right? So sprints initially will be to design the first screen, and second screen will be like, second sprints will be to just to pull in all the products which you want. Third will be about searching. Fourth one will be payment. Fifth one will be checkout. Now, keeping this in mind, you have end-to-end scenarios which are written till the checkout. Now come back to the sprint one and use your stories for the first ones where you have like, okay, one is you might be derived multiple scenarios. I'm just talking about one scenario, right, till the checkout. So for that first scenario, see like where are the stories which will fit in. There will be some stories which will be just for that particular technical glitch to avoid, or it can be just like a temporary workaround for the workaround to see like, okay, I'm just stubbing this environment to see this is coming. Don't automate those things, right? Because that's not going to give you a value at the end of the time, right? You need the value out of it from the long term, because whatever you're going to build, it's not only for today, it's going to for tomorrow, right? In that perspective, I would say like all the scenarios, and you should be able to automate, you can automate. And when you're automating it, you should think in multiple ways. One is whether this automation is going to be expensive, right? Whether I can automate, yeah, I can see that, yeah, this scenario can be automated, but is it expensive? Can I do it in a minute time in manually? Where should I automate it for longer time? And if I'm not using for, even though I use for 5 or 6 iterations, it does not make sense. Leave those out. And some of the things will be with the stabilization, right? There are a lot of stable things which will be there. So just take for only for the stable scenarios, which you see that this, if there is any unstable scenarios, until you find the right approach to automate it, don't automate it.
Thank you, Vimal. Thank you for such a great answer. Like now we got an understanding like what scenarios to automate first or not. Now, Vimal, like as you are into automation testing for this much of time, like according to you, like what are the industry's best practices? Like apart from this one, like selecting the scenario, any pro tips for do's and don'ts in this domain?
Oh yeah, right. So when we talk about industry best practices, I think the first only one don't which I have is like don't do automation for sake of doing it, right? And
Yeah.
also as a tips, I would say it's not a tips. I would say like for automation, it's keep it simple and process oriented. So it is a discipline more than a tech knowledge or how smart your code is or skillful the team is. If no discipline or failure to maintain your process, automation goes for a automation will turn it as a joke, and it inflate your project's cost, effort, people, time, and most importantly, even your credibility, right? Uh, so that is what I keep it as a thing. So when you think about best practices, every project is different, every product is different. You should align yourself to that particular project and product. So few things which I can think about before starting a project itself. You should have a clear automation strategy, whether it is in Sprint or waterfall or whatever model it is. And POC ready tools needs to be analyzed and finalized, because you need to know what you're going to test, how my infrastructure looks like and everything. And code repository and version controls are very important. And plan for a continuous testing, and reporting is very important. And if I want to elaborate what I told right now, it's more of have a larger picture, as we spoke before, have a larger picture in mind about the end-to-end scenarios and how rough draft of pictures, right? Scenarios. So when delivered in Agile, you have the larger pictures, and it's kind of figuring out the pieces which you're going to fit at the end in the jigsaw puzzle. All right. So that's what you're building up. So create small reusable components. Those will be the building blocks of your automation, because you have to know what are my small components which I can reuse again and again. And while in coding, while in testing, whatever automation scripts you created, create a lot of small reusable components. That is kind of a building blocks, like you play the game of a Jenga, right? So like you play a lot of building blocks, keep the basic foundation strong, and in between something goes wrong, that's okay, you can match it up, right? And have a very clear version control system model. So even if you're using a Git or Bitbucket or any other tool, right? Have right controls in place, have a backup of the master code, have your master code as a vault, which can be used, and a lot of review process, include a lot of review process. So it should be a proper development model which you have to approach the automation, and have a stable in automation infrastructure. That is a very important important step in this, because before you plan for it, you have planned for tools and everything, but make sure infrastructure is there for with a vision of scalability, because you might start with the 2 or 3 people, but it might go with multiple projects, multiple things. So you should have a visibility of how do I scale. I should not get locked at any point of time, and create a continuous testing structure within your local automation. It's not for the project, it's for your automation code. A continuous testing model, whether you're using Jenkins, Bamboo, or whatever CT tools that you use, every week, whatever assets you created should be continuously regressed. This will really bring down your maintenance work, maintenance cost. So finally, creating a local Jenkins or your continuous testing environment is matters, because a continuous testing model, which is very important not only for the project, it's important for the automation code which you build, because you need to always have a continuous testing of your code or your assets which you created every week. Every week, run it every week and just see the reports, and if there is some failures, just fix it. So at the end of the day, your maintenance work will be less, and you'll be ready to execute at any given point of time, right? So that way, you have a control of your automation assets which you have built. So I believe these are the major practices in wider angle which you have to take care. And apart from that, everything will fall in place. Don't worry about the tools which you choose and everything. And this is what I feel like, some kind of, I don't know whether can I call it as a best practice or not. Whatever is in my experience, I think these things are primarily important.
Thanks, Vimal, for sharing those things. So now my next question is, since so many companies are using agile model or moving towards agile model, so let's talk about sprint. So what is in sprint automation? Do you suggest that approach?
Of course. So just going to the old age of what we are doing in a waterfall model. What we do is like, you completely build for long, you write your code for a long time, and during that time, the testing comes in the picture almost in the middle of the project, and then they start writing the testing plan and everything, and project gets delivered at one point saying that this is a project, you go ahead and test it. And when the testing starts, testing finds a lot of bugs, a lot of defects and everything, it's rolling back, and you never know the planned product for 1 year will go for another 2 years or 3 years. By the time, you might be even out of the market of the product, right? A lot of failure stories are there in that approach, but there are some of the products which also needs to be followed that because of some constraints. But morely, as relatively, if you want to speak in today's world, more things are agile, because everybody wants to have a short term something I want to see, right? If I want to deliver something, I want to see something and then build on top of it. Think about any application, any mobile app which is coming up. They come with a first small base version of it, and then they have a roadmap for the next 2 years where they can have small things attached to it, new features added to it. So in this world of fast and pace going on, and agile is the only way which I see it should be there. And from the testing point of view, we are also aligned mostly, and I think we are growing as an agile testing right now. And agile, it can be 2 week sprints, 3 week sprints. So there can be some few techniques which can be used. A little bit smarter way of thinking about it, right? Think about a website which is going to come. It's not only website. Below that, there is APIs which is there, and other backend systems which is supporting that, right? Initially, people do the API as a APIs at most of the places. The APIs and the web services will be the first thing to build up. So why not automate the web services first? Automate all the web services and keep it ready, so that even the UI is going to build up. You can keep testing your web service and make sure your backend systems are working fine. Then come back to the UI, and UI you can see, like, whenever the sprint starts, have one more thing, like, I don't know whether you guys have heard about this kind of a local UI setup, where you work very closely with the developer. There is no difference between what you do or developer do, right? So you know what is the features going to come. This grooming sessions, you might be knowing like what are the stories going to come for the sprints. Take that session, take the stories, work closely with the developer, get their code, work with them, get their code, get the access to their code system. Don't get a write access, get a read access. When they deliver the code in your local system, however they are bringing up their websites, you can bring it up the moment they checked in their code in couple of comments, right? So then momentarily you are in pace writing the code without waiting for the actual deployment to happen. And whatever story is getting delivered, you have the code already written. You have already written your automation code for that in the system which they did. There will be a little bit of maintenance because the developers will be doing some of the changes, but judge that which you want to do, which you don't want to do. And if you start doing that, this will be one of the easiest way to attain the in-sprint automation. Working very closely with the developer, get their code, get their understanding, make your programming skills much higher than what it is, and use these resources. These are free, right? Does not need any tools or something. It need a small process changes. So those things can be used. And I would say in sprint automation, you have to be very smarter. And after testing, automation should go hand in hand. You should not leave automation for the second phase. Put automation first as approach always.
Thanks, Vimal. Thanks for such a nice answer. Like why we need in sprint automation. Thank you for that. Like as we all are into automation testing, right? So like, but you are the one who is having like years of experience. So like in your experience, like do you prefer like any specific tool? Do you prefer any licensed tool or maybe open source tool? Like, is there any preference to that?
Okay, again, like tools depends upon the project, the size, the budget, and how scalable you are. What is the future vision of the project, and how long you're going to prolong with the project, and how only after this project you're going to use the tools or not, right? So with keeping this thing, it's like finding tools and right things in current world is kind of solving a Rubik cube there. Come on, believe me, it's like a lot of permutation combinations to put together, because today everyone speaks about agile, in-sprint testing, in-sprint automation, early automation, behavioral driven development, Cucumber, CI/CD, automation bots, the failure analysis and recovery, right? AI, cloud infrastructure. And when you see the tools around, there are open source for web, for API, for mobile. You have Selenium, you have Protractor, you have Rest Assured, and you have APM, and all these things are mostly open source. And if you go for anything with the vendor specific, you have now coming as the Tricentis is coming with a lot of tools like Tosca, Perfecto Mobile for mobile testing, C-Test for C-Test mobile testing, and you have Headspins for mobile testing, and a lot of other browser stacks for multi-browser testing. And if you have a lot of things like this, it is very difficult for you to choose from the market. It's going for a shopping cart and pick whatever you want and come back. It's kind of that kind of a reality it became. But uh, having said that, but from a project perspective, if it is a scalable project, I would say like to go with my experience is like go with open source, because that's where a lot of things are proven, where you don't spend much of the things. You can go to the vendor specific tools when your project is very huge, and if someone you really want to spend that, but also think that you have a return on investment on the tool also. Once after you have the tool, and if you don't use it properly, you will be paying money like anything for the tool, because today's tools are very costly, right? Because of maintenance and everything. But if your usage is good, if your velocity is big, then go for licensed tools. But or else, if your company or if yourself having a small team which you can bring it up to maintain the infrastructure, then open source is the best. You can customize what you want. All right, you can make your own frameworks, which can be tool agnostic. It should be tool agnostic with different. Mobile is there, API is there, and you have web is there, web is there. And apart from that, there can be some of the places where you're away from all those things and you have to automate something combination of web and your Windows items, or combination of web and only for particular operating system. At that point of time, there are other tools which is there. So now you have to see whether you can combine these tools to get an end-to-end experience, right? So when it comes to combination all depends upon where and what kind of project you are going to use. And for example, if you're going to use, you want to also think about remote testing and also think about parallel testing. So for this, you have to create infrastructure. And if you're able to create infrastructure, well and good. If you're not having that time and cost, and you think like, what are the time and cost which I'm going to build a framework or bring that infrastructure into place, if I can go and use it for next 6 months from a vendor, if that is cost effective, go for the vendor to get it. That's all. So I think that's a way which you have to think from the tools. I won't stick to one tool. Be very open-minded with tools, and people and skills of the team should not be to the tool. It should be to the skills of their programming knowledge and the learning which they gained. So because everybody can, tomorrow a new tool can come and everybody have to learn that. So but your basics never change. So keep your basics and foundation strong.
Right.
That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense, Vimal. So in the end, I would like to thank you for sharing your vast knowledge with our audience. So guys, if you want such videos, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Testing Gyan. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.